you other people did. My name is John Cardillo. I was NYPD. Now I'm a syndicated radio host. Michelle Malkin. Everybody knows Michelle. She's a conservative star. And a big supporter of law enforcement. Wanted to do this because there was so much anti-police rhetoric. So much hate directed at law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line every single day. I don't need to go through it. We've seen it. We've seen it for the last 2 weeks. We've seen it for the last 2 years, 20 years, 30 years. It needs to end. It's not going to end with the rhetoric coming out of that White House. It's simply not going to end. The residents of that White House want to enable criminals. They want to invite for coffee and dinner people who tweet out support of convicted cop killers, Mumia Abu-Jamal and Joanne Chesimard, Assata Shakur, who's, by the way, on the most wanted terror list, the FBI's most wanted terror list. People who tweet support for her being freed are invited into that house. It is absolutely disgraceful. Our nation's law enforcement officers deserve better. They put their lives on the line every day for very little money, very long hours, and stress no one should endure. A little public appreciation, and I know most of this crowd does, but the media doesn't. The false narratives being promoted about police officers indiscriminately killing certain races, ages, is a lie. It's a flat-out lie, and it's despicable. And what it's doing, it's decreasing officer safety. But more importantly, it's decreasing your safety. And that's the story you're not being told. Every time we have an incident where police officers are killed, agencies are forced to send more cars on each run. Double up, triple up the amount of officers responding. Who suffers? Not Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton with security details. You. Your response times increase. If your home is broken into, they're not going to come because they're on a higher priority call. Your life is jeopardized every time that happens. And it has to end. You deserve better. And our men and women of law enforcement deserve much better. So I don't want to take up too much time. I want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot to us and to every law enforcement officer out there. Thanks again. Thank you.
Our vigil, our events to provide equal time to the fallen, to the men and women in blue who don't care what your skin color is because they get up every day and put on the blue uniform to do their jobs, to protect and to serve. It's the narrative that doesn't get nearly enough attention in the mainstream press. 2 weeks ago, national law enforcement groups petitioned the White House and asked President Obama if he would light up the White House blue the way that he has done for other groups, the way he lit up the White House rainbow color for the gay marriage Supreme Court ruling, or the way he has lit it up pink for breast cancer. I certainly don't have problems with the events that he has chosen to honor, but the fact that he rejected a heartfelt plea in the aftermath of the Dallas ambush that took the lives of 5 brave men who died not because they were black or white or brown or yellow, but because they wore the blue. I couldn't stand for it. I don't live in D.C. anymore. I don't usually like to come out here unless I'm a tourist. But I flew here, and so did John Cardillo at the last minute, brought many of our law enforcement officer friends and supporters and families because we hadn't seen anyone else do what we're doing here tonight, which is to hold an event which we're calling #Blue Light Friday. And there are people across the country who have already adopted the practice of changing out one of their light bulbs on their porch so that they can hold their own Blue Light Friday memorials at home. it is important to remember that without law and order, we can't have prosperity. Without law and order, we have anarchy. And these men and women who have given their lives in Dallas, in Baton Rouge, in New York, so many of them forgotten. Do you remember that? 2 officers, one of them Hispanic, one of them Asian. Nobody cared what their race was. They were targeted and ambushed specifically because they served the people. They deserve a voice. We have glow sticks if you want to join us and show your own pride as well. And this is in the context, unfortunately, in America, where people who stand up for law enforcement are demonized. Do you know that when people use the phrase #AllLivesMatters, they're accused of being racist somehow for saying all lives matters? Do you know how hard it is to speak up and point out that many people who explicitly hate cops, all cops, no matter what their race is, and expose the fact that there are groups out there, hello, Black Lives Matters, who openly call for the deaths and murders of police officers and get away with it? Why is their rhetoric never challenged? Why are they never held accountable? Why do we never hear this man who lives in the people's house condemn social justice activists who shout out, what do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them now? When do we hear from this White House or this administration or this leadership that it is not okay? It is not okay to mock and demean and ostracize police officers and taunt them when they're trying to keep the peace by saying things like, what do we want? Pigs in a blanket, fry them up now. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever seen it on the mainstream news? Well, we're here to spread the message that that rhetoric is wrong. Is it a case that there are quote-unquote bad cops and bad corruption out there? Of course there are. But there's a time and a place to address that injustice. And I'll tell you what the time and place is not to do that. At a memorial for police officers who've been ambushed because they're police officers. And yet that's what this man in the White House did when he went down to Dallas. I was galled by it. I know many, many families in Dallas of law enforcement officers who are equally galled. I want to send out a thank you and a shout out, gratitude, bottomless gratitude to those families who sacrificed. Think about the children who are going to grow up without fathers because of this kind of violence. I hope you'll join us tonight at the inaugural Blue Light Friday and do it every Friday for our fallen.
I'm going to try to get a picture for our Facebook and Twitter. I'm going to try to get a picture.
Yeah?
Well, with the company, I am showing them.
No problem.
Do you mind getting in the picture too? And I called.
About 6 years left before I can retire, and I hope I can make it done all now. Oh, she wants one.
Get everybody in the picture.
Oh, her phone.
I'm sorry.
You stand right here, man. Stand right there. You want to hold the flag?
We're going to get a picture.
Put her on the side.
Are you okay?
Hey, mommy.
Gracie. If anyone that has a blue light could get with the flag, I'm going to try to get a picture for social media. And make sure your light is showing so we can... I love you.